Hello viewers, to the first video for this Betaflight playlist, and in this video we'll be speaking about how to actually get the Betaflight configurator. And there's two versions to this. There's the online version and there's also the downloaded version, and the downloaded version can either be for different architectures like Android, Linux, and also Windows. And this is the drone that I'll be using. This is a 10-inch drone, so therefore the propeller span will be 10-inch in diameters, and it uses the Holybrew H7 flight controller. And this Holybrew H7 flight controller is capable of turning we're basically having this flight controller as a octocopter using 8 propellers, because it has 2 connectors for 2 ESCs. It uses a 4-in-1 ESC, meaning all 4 BLDC motors can be connected to one flight controller, to one ESC, instead of having individual ESCs. Now, why am I saying this? I'm making you understand what I actually am working with, so you can have an idea of what to actually expect in Betaflight. You have to know exactly what resources or what peripherals you have on your drone build, so that you can have it in Betaflight, especially when installing your firmware. So I have a VTX, which is 3-watt VTX. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that it uses the analog protocol, so that VTX is analog, and also my camera connected to the VTX is analog. My flight controller, it uses a Betaflight firmware. It came with Betaflight firmware, but I also show you how to use this drone to switch to iNav and also ArduPilot in the subsequent iNav and ArduPilot playlist. The next thing to also consider is the receiver. Allow me to connect this drone to accept commands from my transmitter. I am using this transmitter right here, and I have a video on this is a Jumper T14 transmitter, and I have a video on configuring this transmitter to use external receiver and also to set up mixes and channels. So we've gone through this receiver right here, and this receiver is a crossfire receiver, so it uses CSRF or CASRF, something like that, and generally that's it. So all I need to know right now is this flight controller, it is capable of running Betaflight. It came with Betaflight, but some flight controllers that comes with iNav, you can also check to see whether they are capable of running Betaflight on its documentation page. So first and foremost, this is Betaflight, and I'll show you how to source Betaflight. So with the newer Betaflight models or versions, I will say they run strictly off the browser. So you can use Google Chrome, or you can use Microsoft Edge browsers to run Betaflight, and this is the link here, but I'll show you how to get it. But if you want to use the offline version for older boards and so on, or older flight controllers, that's what I actually meant, I'll show you how to get it. But if you also want the offline version, I'll show you how to get it. So you go and type in Betaflight download in your browser, and you're going to go to the GitHub link right here, the releases, and you can see the latest one is 2025.12.2, and this is the latest. Like I just said, it says it here also. So bear in mind the age of this video when you see how far along 2025 is. Now this 25, they don't have much changes, but you can see it changes the servo UI, and I have the latest firmware on this drone here. So yeah, it uses a better user interface for the servo on mobile. You have responsive GPS tabs and all this kind of stuff, and all changes to this Betaflight. You can click on the online application right here. So generally I would use the online, it is the latest one. But besides that, if you want to use the offline version, you're going to scroll down all the way to one that actually has more assets. So I'm going to go down to It's going to take quite a while. So the latest one with assets for downloading offline is 10.10.0. So I'm going to go all the way down and you can see assets right here. I'm using Windows times 64. So I'm using a newer laptop. If you're using a very old laptop, you can check whether it's times 42 or times 64. But if you use a newer laptop, you can use times 64 or times 42. Those two architectures work on a newer laptop. Older ones, they use times 42. If you are not sure, therefore, you can go to your Windows here and type in system info. Go to your system information, and that there just basically a waste of time because I will not be using it offline. But then again, you see system type here is times 64 based PC, so I can use both 42 and 64. For times 64, you can use both architectures. Here you can see there are Mac OS, there's Linux, there's Deb for basically Linux, also for Debian based operating systems, and you can see there's RPM, but I'll be using Windows 64 installer or Windows 64 portable, so I can just click on there and install it. But like I said, I will not be using it. I'll be using the latest Betaflight because it comes with altitude hold without using GPS. So you can use GPS or you can just use sensors. It does it for you. So I click on the online app here and it will take me to here. Now, one thing you have to bear in mind, once you have Betaflight on your computer for the first time, whether you're using the online or you're using one that you have downloaded, bear in mind you need the drivers. And one thing to note also is if you're using the online version, you can also use it without internet once you have loaded it. So once you've opened it, you can always use it without internet because it will store that Betaflight onto your cache and also onto your sessions and into your temporary files on your PC. Generally, it will send you a message showing you can now use Betaflight offline. You'll see it exactly on the screen that you're seeing once you have plugged in your drone and it has downloaded Betaflight for you in the background. So right now, this drone, I've never been connected to this laptop. I've never connected a drone. That is the first time I'm actually using Betaflight on this PC. And just generally me saying, not just accessing Betaflight, but actually using it. I've never connected a drone on it. I'll use that as a scenario. I will need my drivers. Here on the Betaflight home screen, with my drone unplugged, you'll see this right here. So I'll click on the CP210X Windows drivers. So I'm going to click on here, go to downloads, and in the software there, I'm using Windows, so I'm using the Windows drivers and not the VCP drivers, just the Windows drivers. I'm going to click on it and it will open it right here for me. With that done, I can run times 64 right here. And it's very simple, just double click, it runs it, it installs it, and everything goes good. It asks to restart your computer, but do not restart your computer as yet, because the next step is to download Zadig right here. So here is Zadig, I'm going to click on here, and here you can see the Zadig 2.9. This is the Zadig that's available. I'm going to download it, and consider I've already downloaded it because I have. The main thing right here is ImpulseRC Driver Fixer, and this will save you tons and tons of hours. So with ImpulseRC Driver Fixer, this is it right here. I'm using EXE because better to use Betaflight on Windows because it has everything made for Windows. Now, let's say all drivers are installed and all drivers are downloaded. So I've installed, let's say I've installed the CP210X like I've shown you a while ago. Now I have to move on to Zadig. I'm going to open Zadig right here. And Zadig, I believe it's either you just open it or I think you have to download it and install it. You have to install it. Everyone knows how to install applications on their Windows. So with Zadig right here, I'm going to plug in my drone. So my drone is plugged in. You can see it's lighting up, and this here will be blank all the time. So I'm going to click on list all devices. I'm going to click on the drop down and click on Betaflight STM32. If you do not see Betaflight, just make sure you look for STM32, and you'll see that because you have the drivers installed. That's the CP210X drivers. Now what you're going to do, every single thing here with that selected, you're going to click on the Win USB, click on install. Now mine shows replace because it's already installed. You can click on install, click on the little drop down here. So you're going to click on this one and then click on install. Same for this one and same for the USB serial, and that's generally it. With that being done and everything have been done and installed, it takes a little while, then you restart your PC and then everything is okay. So let's say this is my drone and my drone is connected for the first time with all drivers installed. If you don't have drivers installed, one note is that you will get an error here. This is where you see the logs and you'll see serial port failed to connect or failed to connect to serial port. Whatever you see at serial port error there, it will be in red. That means it has a driver issue. And if you have been using Betaflight and then you get that serial port issue, what you have to do, try changing USBs or try a different port on your computer, or simply you can open ImpulseRC Driver Fixer. At ImpulseRC Driver Fixer, you don't have to install it, you just open it and it plays for you. And I'm going to show you exactly how it looks. It's a show flight controller, and then right here it gives me a denied because I'm already in bootloader mode, so I don't need to connect into bootloader again. I don't need to reboot into bootloader. So I got this error right there. I'll make a video about the ImpulseRC Driver Fixer errors and how to fix it. Like when it says too many devices connected or more than one device detected. This here, there's many different errors that could make your life a living hell. So I'm going to click on disconnect, and the first part has been done, getting Betaflight, getting the drivers, and now the last part of this video is installing a firmware. Now I'm going to click on update firmware. My drone is connected to a Betaflight that has all drivers installed. Whether or not you don't have a firmware, whenever your flight controller uses a Betaflight firmware, or it came with a Betaflight firmware out of the box, you will always see this screen. You may not see your drone looking like this. You may see it with a little rectangle showing front, back, left, right, but you'll always see this screen. So I'm going to go to update firmware. Knowing that I have a Betaflight based firmware on my flight controller, it came with it out of the box, then therefore I can press detect. If I don't have a Betaflight based firmware, let's say I have an ArduPilot firmware or iNav firmware, what you can actually do is you will get an error from ImpulseRC, but all you have to do is in the CLI type in DFU while the drone is connected, and it'll reboot that drone into DFU mode. And that's it, considering all your drivers were already installed. Now with my Betaflight firmware already installed on that out of the box, I'll click on detect here. It detects it as a Kakut H7, and this is the latest model here, the latest firmware version. As you can see, I'm going to click on no boot sequence and erase full chip. And this is what you also have to do if you switch in between firmwares, as in iNav firmware or ArduPilot firmware, and you go into Betaflight firmware, and vice versa, cycling all through. Always erase full chip and no boot sequence. Now with that detected, because I have internet, if I don't have internet, I can download the firmware online. I can search for Kakut H7 or Holybro H7 firmware. It's a V2 model, and get it online on the Betaflight website. It is there, so I'll be showing you how to get that. But here I have internet, it has detected it. The radio protocol I'm using So like I said earlier, you need to know your hardware. I'm using Crossfire, which is CRSF, and my Crossfire will be right here as that. If I'm using another type of receiver, like let's say FreeSky using F-port or S-bus, then therefore I will select it right here. But I know I'm using Crossfire, which is for my ELRS. I'll leave it like that. If I'm using a digital VTX, I'll click on digital here. FreeSky VTX, same here. I'll click on FreeSky, but I'm using an analog VTX, so my OSD protocol will be analog. Also, because I am using a analog camera, so I have OSD protocol as analog. Telemetry protocol here will always be automatic once I'm using Crossfire, and for motor protocol I'm using BLDC motors, so I'm going to click on D short right here. Now, in other words, the stuff below there where it says other options, that's very important. Those other options enable you to have different tabs on your firmware, or sorry, on your Betaflight, considering you have different accessories installed. So I'm going to go through it very quickly with you. So we have Acro Trainer, allowing us to switch between flight modes like horizon, angle, and so on. We have LED strip, allows us to use the LED terminals, so you can have LED strips installed onto our drone if you want lights. We have pin IO, allowing us to have our ports enabled, so we can actually store the stuff onto different ports, and also for you to plug and play into those different ports on there. So you have different ports where you can just connect a flex cable into. That's generally for pin IO. You have servos, and I'm going to enable servo because I have a servo installed and I need my servo to be functional, so I need that servo menu. All the stuff down there just allows you to have the menus on the left in Betaflight. VTX, I have a VTX, I need a VTX, so VTX will be enabled. If you have GPS, you can enable GPS. You can also enable attitude hold. I'm going to click on attitude hold because this new Betaflight, it actually has attitude hold, and it will be using most likely the barometer sensor and the accelerometer and gyro sensors, and probably I can get attitude hold out of that. I will give it a try, so I'll give it a try. Next, we have COM control. So you can use COM control if you have your COM wire connected to your camera. So that's for OSD control and this kind of stuff, and probably to control your camera. You have the battery continue here. You have dashboard. I don't know what that is. I don't know what everything is. You have flight plan, and that flight plan is basically new in Betaflight. So you can have flight plan right there. I'm going to try it out. You have LED strip, magnetometers in case you have an external magnetometer or external compass. So if you have GPS on, I'm going to enable magnetometer so I can use the GPS compass. You have position hold, and I know for a fact that probably might not work, but I can give it a try. You have optical flow for in case you have optical flow sensors like LiDAR sensors and so on. You can also use range finders if you have a range finder sensor or LiDAR sensor. They have Race Pro for more tuning and so on of your flight controller. You have different things there. You have servos, VTX, and you have wing in case you're using a wing flight controller. So this is for basically it could be a quadcopter or octocopter. That's my Holybro H7 flight controller, but there's also the Holybro H7 flight controller for the wing models. So if I have to use a wing model, I can select wing here. But since those are what I need right here, I don't need flight plan, I do not need LED strip, I don't need attitude hold. I basically need servos because I have a servo installed. I have a VTX installed. I want to switch between the flight modes. Pin IO, so I can just plug and play pins, different things into the ports like VTX, plug up the VTX into the ports and so on. It's simple as that, and that's generally it. Then I can click on load firmware online. I know what I'm saying there is a little bit extensive, but at the end of the day, I'm explaining everything so that you actually know what you are doing instead of just being curious and go searching online what you need afterwards. Now, my firmware is downloading right here, and usually it will just be downloaded, but since I added some new stuff like flight plan and attitude hold, because I want to give it a try for the first time, therefore it just took a little while. You can also load your firmware locally, since if you can't detect your firmware or you don't have internet and you've downloaded it off the Betaflight website, you can get that Betaflight firmware for your specific drone whatever it's compatible. Then you're going to click on load firmware locally, like I can do here, and here I have it. I have my iNav firmware here, and I have my Betaflight firmware, and I can also have my ArduPilot firmware right here. So I'm not going to use this firmware. I'm not going to load it because I have new stuff added that's not in that local firmware. So here I load firmware online. It's already downloaded, so get downloaded here, and then click flash firmware. I'm going to save this little backup here, and I'm going to press continue. Now right here is initiating rebooting to bootloader mode. It's trying to get into DFU mode, and here you can see the error in red, just like if you have a serial error. So it doesn't, I believe it's giving issues right here. So I'm going to now run ImpulseRC Driver Fixer again, and it will generally just switch between the mode it is right now into a state where it actually works. So here it shows entering bootloader, and then it's going to go into DFU mode. And now, as you can see, I'm in DFU mode right now. It gives me an error because it's irrelevant to go into DFU mode because it's now in DFU mode, and now it's flashing. I'm just going to wait for us to continue to finish and be back. Okay, so the firmware has just been flashed onto the drone, and now I can press connect. Usually what I'll do, I'll just disconnect the drone from the computer, then reconnect it. Everything is connected and everything works. My gyro works. So here you can see the USB serial is linked. So USB works obviously because I can see Betaflight is opened and my drone is on it, so I will see serial here. I have the gyro sensor working, you will see it orange here. I have the accelerometer sensor working, it's orange here. I have no compass, no GPS, and usually when you have a GPS you have compass installed onto it. So I have no compass hardware or GPS hardware, but I have barometer to estimate my height from the ground. This is why I said I might try altitude hold. And I have no sonars or no range finders, and you will see grayed out. So generally that's it for getting Betaflight running from your browser or from your computer. And tip of the day is make sure you always install your drivers. Make sure you always have ImpulseRC Driver Fixer very close by. Make sure you have it installed, and also use the latest Betaflight. It comes with more features and it comes with a more easier interface to work with. So that's generally it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. In the next video we'll be going through all the tabs, which is generally from the setup going all the way down to the CLI. Now they will be broken down into different sectors based on how long the tabs are, but generally that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you find this content useful, you can share it also.